to help you out. Let's talk about our first matchup. Victoria's Secret versus C'est La Vie. Why does this matter? Well, C'est La Vie does not have a single win. We've mentioned that many times in the pregame show. It's a fact. It's tough, but they're still staying in the game. And even though they've had a change in leadership with Callis no longer the leader, and now it's Big Cheese, correct? Wonder how that leadership is going to affect the team. But Victoria's Secret has also been having some trouble when it comes to motivation. With any team that's joining us from the Silver League, the Gold League has certain expectations, certain stresses, you could say, that's being placed on individual members because of time commitments and the amount of practice that goes in. The higher the rewards, the higher expectations and practice is required for these teams to make it to the finals. That's what all these teams are trying to do. They're trying to get real cash money with a prize pool of $100,000. So that leaves us with this matchup. What's more important right now is the Victoria's Secret getting a win to launching themselves further into the division, hopefully, depending on the other teams, or is it C'est La Vie trying to get a single win? Well, the question really is up to the audience. Who are they rooting for? I personally would love to see C'est La Vie put a point on the board. The Victoria's Secret has shown some real dominance and some real good preparation on the teams that they have faced, and with that, it's anybody's game.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be very difficult, I have to agree, for Victoria's Secret and C'est La Vie to make their way back in. It could be, if you're really harsh, just to fight for relegation, to see how they're going to relegate out of this season or if they're going to be able to stay. The bottom teams are automatically out, and you don't want to be that. You want to give yourself at least one more fighting chance to try and stay in after the season is over. But there's a chance, I think, for Victoria's Secret. There can be ties. We've seen insane ties in previous seasons.
We have.
Absolutely insane ties. 3 ways that have taken a team from sitting at the very bottom, in like bottom 3 even, and they get to go to that cross tiebreaker, that the playoff, and then maybe even make their way in. Absolutely astonishing, the potential that even a bottom team can have to make it to our finals. There's always a chance.
There is always a chance. There is. You can never discount that. But you have to look at the numbers and you have to look at the performance. And you also have to look at the kind of like the preset way that some of these teams have defined their own storylines, and are we seeing patterns? I would say that a similar pattern has happened to Refuse to Die, to what we're seeing from C'est La Vie. Maybe not on the onset of losing so much, but a team that could be relegated out or could lose in the up and down relegation matches, and then comes back with a vengeance like we've seen from Refuse to Die. So if there's any word of advice I could give to any of these teams as far as behind this area of the desk and watching these matches and seeing these teams grow, is that don't give up. You have to separate the wheat from the tares, if you will, when you're trying to build a team. And it's going to take a lot of time. It's going to take a lot of dedication. It's going to take a lot of perseverance to create something that's worthwhile, that's long-lasting. Simp took a long time to build their team, and so did Fnatic. And Fnatic still goes through adjustments in order to be the best that they can be. And they have more pressure, arguably, than any other team in the league. I would say secondary would be Simp and Hammer Time, and some people would argue no, they have even more pressure because they need to perform better than the top teams. And Hammer Time with their new sponsorship, it's great to see that more and more companies are getting invested in these teams in World of Tanks. But it adds further legitimacy, adds that more stress that, hey, we have to perform here because more is on the line.
Yeah, certainly. And I believe that we may have our interview ready right now, except I don't think we're going to have C'est La Vie's mic working.
Oh, that's unfortunate. Yeah. We're going to have to check in with our admin to see if they are ready for the Skype call for our face-off. Okay, looks like we only have one member joining us. Let's go ahead and jump into the face-off. I believe it's going to be Disruption from Victoria's Secret. Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
First off, with the roster changes that have happened, would you care to comment at all briefly on Conflict being no longer on the team?
Not really. We just felt that we needed to change as far as other field call. As far as calling, play style, that type of thing. We need a little bit better fit as far as starters, so to speak. So we actually added. We dropped him, picked up 2 people. Of course we were short, playing with 9 people since the roster cutoff date mid-May. But hopefully, even though they are red-shirted for this week, we plan to have those 2 guys play the following 2 games, next week and the following week. So we look forward to it.
Can you at least tell me that the separation was amicable?
Oh, definitely. Oh, yeah.
Okay.
He still jumps on TeamSpeak. We talk to him. We platoon together. Still, yeah, we talk. And even on Skype, TeamSpeak. Yeah, either way.
All right. You have 1 win compared to C'est La Vie. Are you starting to theory craft where you want to be at the end of the season, or are you keeping that on lockdown and just focusing week by week?
Right. Well, we are basically, yeah, yes, we are.
Okay.
I mean, we are 1-3, but however, the plan is to hopefully win our next three, finish 4-3, and place us mid bracket or so. We just don't want to be on the bottom, bottom tier, just to get relegated out instantly. So we look forward to tonight and next 2 weeks, and hopefully we'll break even 50% and maybe go to 4-3.
Is there anything you'd like to say to your fans that are watching tonight before we start this battle?
All right. Thanks for watching, guys. Hopefully we'll pull out a win tonight and next 2 weeks, and we'll finish high. Thanks.
All right. Thank you, Disruption. Best of luck on the battlefield.
Thanks.
Icy and Too Good are the two members that have been added, and as you mentioned, they are redshirted, which means they cannot play this week, but we can see them next week if they decide to put them in the roster of 7. So the roster is 10 total. 7 men can play on the team, or women. Mm-hmm. We actually have someone in the league, which is fantastic. But what matters the most is how good of a tanker you are. It doesn't matter boy or girl.
Yeah. Always exceptional players are welcome in the league.
That's right. That's right. Taking a look at the rosters overall, you can see that we have added Too Good. The rosters will reflect the exact nature of the teams next week, since the red shirt will be over. But are there any individual members from either team, Rookkill, you're looking forward to the most to watch today?
Well, I'm not sure for Victoria's Secret. Disruption's always been good. It's just that with the roster changes, I feel like the dynamic of these teams will be changed. Callus is always good, but Big Cheese from C'est La Vie is the person I'm looking out for.
All right. Well, I look forward to watching Big Cheese as well. But Rookkill, why don't you go in detail for us your rules for victory?
Gladly. First rule for today is going to be back to basics. Both of these teams, of course, not seeing as much success as they would like. I think maybe a solution is go back to the basics. Don't play too complicated. Play a straightforward strategy, straightforward execution. Yes, your opponent's probably going to be able to read it in a way. Maybe they'll overread it. Don't know. It comes down to that execution and what each of these captains is thinking. But basics. Basic teamwork, basic crossfires, basic movements, all of that stuff that just usually isn't conscious or communicated. Just start talking about it. Start really actively trying to make those basic things happen. Second rule, the A team. We have roster changes that have just happened, so we have players that have been removed from teams, and we have players that are redshirted, not able to play this week until next, that will be affecting these teams, and I'm wondering if we're going to see the same level of performance out of Victoria's Secret. C'est La Vie has had no roster changes. They've kept it all the same. I think that will give them an advantage, and Victoria's Secret needs to be conscious of that. They have new players coming in. They're stuck with a different roster. Finally, Sun's Conflict. Victoria's Secret does not have conflict. He was a top performer, in my opinion, on that team. He did not get the best stats all of the time, but he was very consistent. Without him on this team and without him performing today, Victoria's Secret needs to think about that and consciously try and make changes and compensate for the lack of this player.
Here we go, ladies and gentlemen. Battle number 1 is about to begin for our first match of the night. C'est La Vie versus Victoria's Secret. Rookkill, what do we have for tanks?
For tanks, I'm looking at a Pershing, 2 T69s, 1390 and WZ-132 for the side of Victoria's Secret. C'est La Vie will be bringing a 5100 T32, 3 1390s, and of course everyone has T1 Cunninghams. Look at a floppy draft and some dude for Victoria's Secret, C'est La Vie, Doppler, and Flaming Panda.
All right, notice that Disruption is in the Pershing. One notable thing about Victoria's Secret is that the captain has been playing in Tier 8s. Another team that does this is Refuse to Die with a bag of kittens. Bow on the 5100 is going to be sniping up top near the flag cap, and one tank is lit right now. It's one of the light tanks for C'est La Vie, the blue team who has spawned to the north. Yeah, they're playing very defensive on the onset here, not going for that mid-hill aggression, that mid-hill firefight. So sometimes it's just a spray and pray for some of these teams when they see each other so quickly in the middle, but not the case this time.
And now we have Lord Rachnips and Callus on the side of C'est La Vie actually hanging out in the west. I don't know if Disruption has detected both tanks, but he does know something is up over there. And because of that, he's going to be trying to pin those 2 Tier 8s in the west while work is being done in the east. It looks like Tyler Durden, Rummy, Serenity all trying to see what they can do on the hill. Rummy may be able to get some spotting and some shots out, but Serenity and Tyler Durden will be the crucial tanks to try and find someone, cut them off, and deal the damage. We have a proxy spot right now onto Flaming Panda. Shots fired from Tyler Durden. And there goes Flaming Panda. T1 down, proxy tank down, and that is a whole lot of land lost for C'est La Vie.
Yeah, some dude, 904, fell a little bit earlier here. Flaming Panda was the next one in C'est La Vie. And Callus has taken a hit from far away. He's got 3 shots left in his tank, going for the reload. Smart idea, as long as Victoria's Secret doesn't push into one of those directions, which I don't think they will. Serenity's however creeping a little bit closer. As Callus is going to wait for the reload, let's check in with Lord Reknaps, and he has 4 shots left in his tank, dancing back behind the rocks here. This is going to be a standstill for a couple minutes, and can we see any type of east side movement coming out of Victoria's Secret in this type of position since they already have the high ground?
It looks like they're holding back on that right now, keeping a floppy giraffe alive in case of some catastrophic event. They don't want to throw away the first battle on mines on a bad fight. Right now, they do have that high ground, though, and they're going to be able to do plenty with it. Rummy and Empro, 2 fairly damage-dealing tanks. Empro, consistent fire just out the wazoo. And he's going to be trying to flex around, I expect, as soon as he can and as actively as he can. But right now, he's checking the backfield to verify the safety of his team, to make sure no one has snuck around. Because Disruption did lose vision for a while. He was forced down into behind some rocks by members of C'est La Vie, and you got to make sure that no one's coming around on that low ground on the water side, because there are still tanks that have not been spotted.
Exactly. 1 tank has been spotted, though, Disruption, as he dances a little bit further back in that Pershing. Tyler Durden, Disruption, and Serenity 17 still holding next to those rocks. The difficult position now for Victoria's Secret is if that they choose to be too aggressive, they have a number of tanks that are able to land key shots against them. However, look at what's happening on the east side.
Yes, Floppy Giraffe is moving up in his T1. M-Pro flexing around to cover him. This is textbook stuff. Move your T1 up, cover him with something light and fast or capable. M-Pro is just the tank to do that. He was on the hill, and now he's going to watch out, cover Floppy as he moves further and further west as he can. Looks like they haven't found anything. They'll be waiting. Sog, Cenobite was spotted for a little bit.
He's in the T-32. He's... Well, another Bao Bao was spotted up top. In the 5100, Big Cheese is next to him, 256. The leader of C'est La Vie now. And I do not see any indication that they have scouted Floppy Giraffe or M-Pro. Shot did land real close to Bao Bao, though. He's trying to determine where it came from.
It was blind fire from M-Pro. That's up in the northeast. He's just looking for free shots. He knows the defensive positions of C'est La Vie. He knows the likely positions of all of these tier 8s, and he's just trying to sneak a shot in where someone might be lazy, someone not paying attention or not taking enough care to cover themselves. But it does look like they're doing a good job. Bao Bao in the proper position, Big Cheese in another equally capable position, are not going to be able to take fire from M-Pro. He can try all he wants, but I don't think he's going to get anywhere. Of course, he won't know if he gets anywhere, which is the important part.
Looking at the HP value between both teams, C'est La Vie is technically in the lead based on Disruption's damage. However, not by much. Callus and Lord Reknaps did take some hits a little bit earlier.
Indeed. Disruption, though, is about half health. And with that, that could end up going back into the favor of C'est La Vie if they're able to just get those shots on target. Rummy getting off the hill. Looks like Victoria's Secret is gearing up for some kind of move. I'm gonna say probably west side would make sense to me. They'll try and get Lord Reknaps and Callus picked off if they can. There is plenty of cover, I think, from C'est La Vie. This might not be the best move. It's going to be a costly move at best.
Lord Reknaps is now reloading, so looking at timing, there is a little bit of luck happening for M-Pro and Rummy as they're moving. Not spotted yet. I'm concerned, though, with the water site getting completely demolished, still under cover of these rocks by Victoria's Secret. But the thing is, they're going to get scouted before they can even approach Lord Reknaps and his battle buddy, who's just north of him, Callus. But looking more towards the south side here as M-Pro and Rummy are getting closer with 4 minutes left. Either team's going to make a decision soon and push on one side or the other in order to get a win instead of a draw. Lord Reknaps fires towards Disruption. Disruption takes 233 damage and falls closer to death. Reknaps, however, reveals his position by taking out that tree, and he gets hit for 211.
Oh.
Hit again, double hit for 697 in that volley, and he falls from Tyler Durden. Where was Tyler with that shot?
Tyler was sitting in the middle, just waiting for this. I saw this a minute ago with those T-69s. They're sitting there just guns trained on those 1390 positions. They knew Saint-Levy had no intention of pushing out. They knew those tanks did not have the potential to make a real flank without costing too much health. And they went and they jumped on that. They recognized a weakness, they set up for it, and they executed. No huge mistakes there. Very minimal damage traded in exchange for a 1390.
The next choice from Victoria's Secret is to focus on which tank. And Sog Cenobite is the only one that's spotted here. He knows that. Callus knows that. Callus stays close in the bushes, watching two different avenues, either through the water or close to the water from the lighthouse or the mines itself.
I think that was a lot of posturing from a T-32.
Yeah.
You see a T-32 right at the middle like that, just sitting behind a rock, and you have to say, there must be someone behind this. There must be a reason for this movement. There's no way this T-32 is sitting there out there alone.
They would think that, and then that could actually create a type of diversion that could work in Saint-Levy's favor. But right now, Sog Cenobite fires into the side of the mountain.
It looks like a little lag got him right there.
Yeah, I was trying to fire into the two tanks that were going up to the top of the hill. High ground is such an advantage for teams that have it because, well, you talk about gun depression with some of these tanks. They have way better gun depression compared to others. The American tanks probably being the best out there.
If you could get an American tank like one of those T-69s on the top of the hill, you'd be able to do all sorts of work.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, they're only able to get the tanks with the absolute worst gun depression, the 1390
1390s.
and the WZ.
But still, where they've placed themselves, is it allows them to get behind any tanks that start an engagement here. But what the difficulty is Bao Bao is sitting up in sniper mode along with Big Cheese, ready to unleash a lot of damage to any of these tanks that overstep their bounds, that go past the cover that's available to them. Tyler takes a hit from Sog.
And now MPro has moved back into that old position, and with that we're going to be able to see possibly a highly effective WZ-132 in a flanking position. Now we have that pinch, that flanking position, two-pronged attack from Victoria's Secret that will very slowly and hopefully, for their sake, just finish off one take at a time as they get the right angles.
Minute and 6 seconds. Victoria's Secret's going to have to move quickly here. I don't think this is enough time even to get a win.
You know, you could very well be right. There's too much damage now taken. Victoria's Secret, Tyler Durden just took a few shells. He's down to 481 hit points. He can't afford to begin an engagement. Only Serenity and Rummy can. And there it goes. Tyler Durden is down. Callus getting the shot, getting the kill.
And he falls back 38 seconds. So Saint-Levy has been able to salvage losing one of their tier 8s instead of Victoria's Secret pouncing on them, holding their ground, and doing enough damage to stop any type of aggressive maneuvers coming out of Victoria's Secret.
You got to give it to them. It's hard to defend the north side of mines. Much
Yes.
easier to get the south, and they've been able to pull it off.
Serenity takes a hit from Callus. Well, I feel one of the biggest triggers, even though he hasn't been in firefight much, has been Bao Bao in that 5100. They weren't able to spot him really, but now they're taking damage from him. And with 5 seconds left, they're not going to be able to kill him or the rest of the tanks on the battlefield. So Saint-Levy has turned this potential loss into a draw, which is better, obviously. But where do you go from here as Saint-Levy? Do you play defensively again with a 5100 sniping from far away? You're not going to be able to play mines again. So one of the traits that we've seen, though, that has changed since going all the way back to Season 1 is AMX 5100s being used on maps such as Mines or even Prohorovka for their long-range fire and also for their damage output.
Yeah, certainly a very good choice. There's also that WZ-132 pick. What do you think of that?
Well, I love it for its initial... There's a small window where it's initially awesome, right? And that is when you have that big brawl that happens in the center because it's a consistent fire tank. And to me, it can be more sacrificial compared to a 1390 at the beginning. It has better traverse speed. So because of that, it can outmaneuver, even though it may be a very, very small difference, it can outmaneuver the 1390.
And don't forget that also the WZ-132, if you mount the 85, not necessarily the 100 mil, but the 85 millimeter cannon, it fires a little bit more accurately on the move, and so makes it very appropriate for those hit and run tactics, or even just constant motion engagements, whereas the 1390, as many of us know, is very inaccurate on the move. Even when you sit still, even when you get your gun completely zeroed, it is still not a very good sniper. you have this autoloader where you're tempted. You're just so tempted to keep firing because you have all 6 of those shells, right? You want to get them as fast as you can, but if you do that, you're actually not going to be able to fire that accurate. You're actually going to fire it very inaccurately, and most of your 1390 shells will actually go away. WZ-132, you can just shoot all day.
Yeah, you do. You just shoot all day, and the thing is too, it's loaded faster than the 1390 at the beginning. So that's why I say it's a more dangerous tank at the beginning of a matchup, especially on Prororovka, and especially in the hands of J Smooth from Simple Tankers. That's been some amazing play with it. But what happens is in the mid game or late game, you have the damage output, the 6 shots from the 1390s, and you get one of them, tracking a WZ-132, and he can't land a couple shots in return, he's going down. And that's where the WZ-132 lacks and can lose in that argument of its advantage versus a 1390. So that's how it goes. Battle number 2 is going to take place on Cliff between these two teams. Still 0-0 with that draw, and it's still anybody's game. Ruka, what do we have for tanks?
Well, it looks like we're going to have a Pershing, 2 T-69s, and 2 1390s for the side of Victoria's Secret. C'est la vie will have a 5100, 4 1390s, and Dopper will be playing an MS-1.
MS-1.
Interesting.
Well, it's a lot of autoloader tanks.
Yes.
And here's the 5100, as I mentioned, being brought into a map where... Have we seen one often on Cliff? No, it's more the 1390s, T-32s, and Pershings, and T-69s. Those are the most common tanks. Not only will you see in 7x42 esports for World of Tanks, but especially for the map of Cliff. We've seen tank destroyers be used on occasion back in Season 2, maybe even 3. But let's find out how these teams are going to engage at the beginning. Bao Bao and Rummy are close.
Rummy is just about loaded, and... he hangs there for a second. He is loaded now.
Tyler takes the first hit from Sog.
Oh, no.
He falls back as Victoria's Secret is able to push the rest of their tanks to the main mountain where the lighthouse is. And Tyler takes another hit. Bao Bao gets a free shot.
Callus has taken damage from disruption. A little bit of revenge, but Empro is now taking damage. He is tracked all the way down to 286 hit points in the first 2 minutes of the battle. Victoria's Secret has started this battle up to a huge deficit.
Yeah, and C'est la vie can jump on this for sure. They could press and take down if they are able to focus correctly. M-Pro and then Tyler Durden. 2 tier 8s would fall very quickly, and Disruption takes a hit for 228 damage. I don't know what Victoria's Secret is trying to plan or trying to pull here by moving their tanks so close to the fire where C'est la vie has placed their huge damage dealers. The 5100, Big Cheese, ready to unload. Callus, however, is in some trouble, and this is where it can actually swing back in their favor if Callus is not careful enough. He's going to fall back, and within that cover, Lord Reknaps fires back against Disruption, who takes another hit, and so does Rummy.
And here's the thing about C'est la vie's attack, though. It's a more aggressive land grab. You get more position earlier, where Victoria's Secret has played this back of the hill game. You see Serenity, Tyler Durden, Rummy, all on the backside of the hill. You used to have M-Pro there before he got completely wasted. And then Disruption in kind of that backfield position, that safety spot, to cover the east and a little bit on the hill. But C'est la vie brought 1390s, they brought more mobility, and they're using that to their advantage right now. C'est la vie is playing very well. Victoria's Secret did not have an answer to this kind of an attack.
Lord Reknaps now on the reload. Callus is going to cover him. So here it becomes another standstill game between the two teams. You have to recognize, where does a team with the advantage go from here? And that advantage is C'est la vie. They have the HP advantage. They have an idea of where M-Pro is. They know where Tyler Durden is exactly because they can spot him. And the new Disruption, Rummy took some hits. So they decide, do we go up the center, just straight on, 3-4 Musketeer mode, just run right at the enemy? Or do we split and try to bait them out even further and try to win HP wars more until it goes even more of our favor and then push?
Yeah, that's an interesting thought about what you need to do. It's difficult, because you never know exactly where your enemy is. You can guess and guess all day, and you can try and scout as much as you can. But if your enemy is as competent as the Gold League, then you're going to have a lot of difficulties trying to read your opponent in time. Disruption goes down.
Bao Bao was able to get that shot, and guess where Bao Bao's at? Up on the lighthouse. Great position, was able to find disruption. Disruption was too late for him to fall back in time. Now Babo's on the reload, but because they know he's reloading, Rummy and Mpro are going to try to work this into their advantage. I guess they're guessing he's reloading because of the amount of shots he took in order to swing east and try to get behind C'est La Vie.
But Victoria's Secret is looking for a solution of their own. East side play, Rummy and Mpro moving around in their 1390s. Victoria's Secret is getting ready for an engagement. They find Doppler, but Doppler has found two 1390s, revealing this position. C'est La Vie expect a push.
Rummy and Mpro staying next to the buildings as Big Cheese and Sog, Cenobite are moving back. Big Cheese takes a hit for 256. He takes down Mpro, no problem. Sog covers him and is able to land one hit against the enemy. They push forward and Big Cheese is able to get it. Big Cheese is super low though. 942 damage in a volley coming out from Tyler Durden and Serenity as they pushed into the center. Victoria's Secret has only 2 Tier 8 tanks left. Everyone's still left alive except for the MS-1 Doppler.
I'd say that was worth it. Tyler Durden on the reload, blocking Serenity. They're going to try and share health. Not going to happen. Well played by C'est La Vie. I think everything they did in this match was very proper. Victoria's Secret just not able to bring it. They attempted to bring that back. That east side play could have saved them.
It could have. It was a bit of a how do you say, worst case scenario.
Yes.
A perfect storm for a lot of things that were going wrong for Victoria's Secret. But trying to place ourselves into their shoes of what type of strategy they were going to use, I mean, you could say it was a land grab at the beginning, but to what advantage did Victoria's Secret have? Because they were not returning fire.
Well, their land grab was very different, I think, than what we saw from C'est La Vie. C'est La Vie spread themselves out. They got a lot of coverage everywhere. What Victoria's Secret failed to do was get that same level of coverage. There was a crossfire that existed for C'est La Vie. They had fire from the west side, meaning that if Victoria's Secret was hanging back, they had the potential to deal damage and gain advantage. And if they decided to aggress, there was a flank ready to happen, meaning you'd have yourself surrounded. And if you were surrounded, you can try to break out all you want, right? But you're going to have a lot of trouble if your opponent's faster than you, which is the advantage of that 1390 lineup. There's a lot of damage in it. And everything about the execution. There wasn't anything Victoria's Secret did so much wrong. There weren't any huge mistakes. C'est La Vie was just given the opportunity to win, and that's it.
Given the opportunity to win. That's a lot of people would love that opportunity.
Yeah, it was just handed to them.
Yeah, and so now the thing is, I don't want to sound very, it's almost crass or kind of unfair, but you can't judge C'est La Vie's performance based on this one battle alone and how this match is going to happen. This was more the loss of Victoria's Secret than a win for C'est La Vie. I say that with caution though, because I don't want to take anything away from C'est La Vie. But I want to see something innovative. I want to see something positive coming out of C'est La Vie on Abby. They need to do something instead of a draw in this scenario. But if they want to play for the draw, they have the advantage being up 1-0.
Exactly.
So I can't fault them for it, but we can't, this is not a precursor to say that, oh, well, you know, since they won one game, they're going to win the whole match. It's still anybody's game. Still anybody's game. All right, Rookhill, battle number 3. What do we have for tanks?
For tanks, 2 5100s, T69, and 2 1390s for the side of Victoria's Secret. C'est La Vie bringing a 5100, a Pershing, and 3 1390s. I'm seeing a consistent trend. Mobility from C'est La Vie. They really like mobility right now. Whereas Victoria's Secret is choosing something heavier, something beefier with more damage, more hit points. Interesting choices for those teams. C'est La Vie seems to be using it well, especially in Cliff. This is another map, Abbey, where I think they can utilize their speed, their mobility to their advantage.
Big Cheese, 256 back in the 5100.
What is that opening move? C'est La Vie. That opening move from C'est La Vie, I'm not misreading the map. I'm actually seeing this. They're actually sitting at their base.
They're spread.
And Tyler Durden, Rummy, are trying to go for a counterplay, an early land grab, which is working against them. C'est La Vie is in the perfect position to shut this down, and it's already going poorly for Victoria's Secret. Tyler Durden is forced to bail out of the position. and retreat, quite possibly. Rummy has taken damage. Disruption spotted. Moving out, and he may take more damage. This is, unfortunately, Victoria's Secret trying to do something amazing and backfiring. I don't know. Do you think C'est La Vie read this? Do you think they saw this coming?
I think this is meta on meta on meta. And let me break it down here. C'est La Vie watched the matchup of Fun Gaming versus Victoria's Secret, and they saw how quickly Victoria's Secret would push into Fun Gaming because they knew that Fun Gaming would not move initially. They would try to adapt themselves to the initial workings of their opponent, their initial placement of the opponent. C'est La Vie thought, well, Victoria's Secret doesn't take us as seriously as Fun Gaming, then they're going to be hyper aggressive and push towards us. Therefore, let's wait and see what they do, take a page out of Fun Gaming's book, and then adapt from there. So far, what we've seen is that it's worked with winning HP values, with winning HP wars, and that has allowed C'est La Vie to be more flexible in the rest of the battle. With 7 minutes and 54 seconds, Rummy's hurt. Everyone else still has plenty of HP. So it's not too much for C'est La Vie to say, hey, we got this. We have map control. We have tank control. Let's go and win this. But it's a good opening for C'est La Vie. However, what they have to do now is figure out a mid-game tactic. And on Abby, their mid-game tactic could be camp. We have a win. Make them come to us.
It's a very odd one as well. I don't think we've seen anyone in the Gold League actually bring a strategy where they sit at their base. That is it. They take up the pub match, sit at the base camp. I'm sure I'll find somebody's strategy. But, of course, you don't have 8 other people on your team in this one.
No.
No 8 other people to go to the other flanks and die while you sit at the base. You can't afford that. And in this case, your opponent is given the freedom actually to go east or west, but oddly enough, Victoria's Secret picked the wrong cup in this situation.
Look at where they placed Callus on the west road. Disruption's able to take down Topper. Callus is in a position to punish Victoria's Secret moving down the center section, while Flaming Panda is further north to scout anyone coming down the western road. So they were ready for Victoria's Secret trying to do it again. Not going to be the case, and now C'est La Vie is going to be swinging towards the eastern road.
Which is very odd. If you look at the positions of Victoria's Secret, after Disruption got the T1 kill on Doppler, Tyler Durden and Rummy were actually moving south. And C'est La Vie has had a perfect reaction in a way. They're moving their tanks from the middle to the east to try and overmatch. Now, nice move by Victoria's Secret is they recognized the potential that there were more enemies than they had tanks there, and so are going to be running away. Smart move from both teams. This is going to continue a back and forth that could extend the length of this battle. Unfortunately, it does look like Disruption has been caught out.
Ooh, 2 shots miss, go into the dirt from Lord Reknaps and either Big Cheese or Bao Bao or another tank, but it might have been another shot from Sog Cenobite. He was able to deliver one blow.
It's a trap from up above. Serenity and M-Pro have gotten shots into the sides of tanks of C'est La Vie. It doesn't look like they've done enough damage, though, and now Disruption is completely cut off. He's going to either have to back on down and leave or die.
And he dies. Sog Cenobite, though, close to falling. Far away, Tyler Durden lands. No, can't get a shot against Lord Reknaps. And he does get one, and Rummy's close by. Sog almost out of the fight, while Bao Bao is going to take the lead. And he fires into the dirt.
The 1390 accuracy on the move is just so painful sometimes.
So Heat fizzled on the outside. Or high explosive.
Backup is on the way. M-Pro on his reload. Gonna be there soon. You may be able to salvage the situation, but with a T8 down for Victoria's Secret, this is not looking very good. They've lost a lot of momentum that they started out with, and I think they're playing the reactive game right now. They're trying to find new advantages, but they're in no position for that. They may be able to find Flaming Panda, though. That's interesting. Rummy and Tyler Durden are spotted.
They know that they are spotted here.
And the T1's going to have to book it. I don't think he's going to get away, though.
Sog is so low, he's almost out of the fight, but you look at having a Pershing knocked out or a 5100 knocked out, and if you're playing defensive, you know, and you have a great hold down position, a lot of advantages of having a Pershing, but Disruption was such a damage dealer for Victoria's Secret that I think it's more in the favor. Well, it has to be more in the favor, obviously, of C'est La Vie because of Sog Cenobite still alive, but when those 5100s get knocked out, we see a huge pattern to the victor.
There's
The enemy
a
team.
little
Callus
revenge.
is spotted, or not spotted yet. No, falls back.
Sog and Callus have taken a lot of damage recently, and that was from Serenity, who just from his vantage over in the east was able to flip it around because he has that central position on the map and get some nice free damage on Callus. Some dude sitting in a little tiny corner is going to be able to proxy spot tanks, but he's going to leave that, I guess, as a floppy giraffe is going to move up to try and get some spotting best he can. But I don't think anyone is going to be able to get in too many good positions quite yet. It's going to be, there we are. Tyler Durden, Rummy, getting into the high grounds, getting in that coverage, looking for some tanks, but it looks like C'est La Vie has shifted position.
They've decided to pretty much hug the southeastern corner with 3 minutes left, forcing Victoria's Secret to come to them once again. And battle number 3, another draw happening on Abbey, would not necessarily solidify a victory for C'est La Vie, but moves them one step closer. A victory would be much better on
They
Abbey
could
rather than a
win.
draw.
They very could.
They could, but they better start with some sort of tactic, because 2 minutes and 30 seconds is about the right amount of time they're going to need in order to kill all the tanks for Victoria's Secret.
Well, actually, things might be turning around.
Big Cheese is actually taking a lot of hits.
Yeah, he's taking a lot of damage from Rummy, and then on the cross, I think that was Serenity? Maybe? No. Had to be Empro getting shots. Big Cheese is pinched in this position right now. He's not going to be able to escape. Very likely he could go down, and so could the rest of C'est La Vie if they make the wrong move to counter this.
Callus takes down some dude. Callus falls to Serenity. Another shot against Big Cheese. Can't see the tank shooting at him. He falls. Rummy gets it. Minute 53. So Victoria's Secret, the majority of their tanks are actually in the center. Another tank is spotted. Tyler Durden.
Now Rummy's moving in. He's got enough hit points. He's got enough shells. He's seen Sog. He knows that it's a matter of being fast enough. But he finds Bao Bao. And Bao Bao doesn't react in enough time, and he's a little bit surprised. Rummy wastes 2 shells, though. Bao Bao wasting 1 as well. These 1390s on the move accuracy. Not very effective. And now M-Pro is covering him. Tries to move up.
Victorious puts some tanks on the flag cap, forcing C'est La Vie to focus on them, hopefully drawing them out. Tyler Durden takes down Sog Cenobite.
And now you've got a beautiful flank from a 1390. Bao Bao going to run out of shells. Tyler's going to be able to get free kills as long as he can do it in a minute. There is enough time for them to deal enough damage. They just need to be fast enough.
And Flaming Panda has fallen as well, so it's just these 2 tier 8s. Tyler falls, though, to Lord Reknaps. Bao Bao super low, he goes down. Reknaps, last tank alive. 46 seconds. M-Pro, Serenity, Rummy. Rummy's close.
He'll be reloaded in just a moment.
He's going to try to block him. Slows him down, at least.
It's kind of nipping at his heels.
And there's one shot. 308. One and a miss. 30 seconds left. Serenity lands another one. Lord Reknaps almost falls, and he does. Victoria's Secret able to tie up the series 1-1 as we move on to battle number 4. It was close. I don't think Victoria's Secret was able to do it, but as soon as Big Cheese fell, both the 5100s were gone. And
Exactly.
that meant a big open window to push in against those damaged 1390s.
It shows how even if you are down a tier 8, as long as you can get the damage out of your opponent little by little, you whittle them down, and then you can make the big push. That was it. It didn't look like it at first, but just a little damage here, a little bit damage there, some good scouting and direct fire coverage from members of Victoria's Secret. It took all of 5 minutes to change it from an uneven battle down a tier 8 into that advantaged situation, but it's just a little damage. You don't always have to get the kill. Just a little damage here and there for free or for an advantageous trade. You put more damage on them than they put on you, and eventually, if you have time, that can be the victory. That's what we saw here with Victoria's Secret.
I like that Victoria's Secret chose a road and went down for a while, even though it didn't work. They were able to readjust.
Mm-hmm.
And when you're able to make that call and then have the flexibility to change it later on and still get a victory, it's a good tell for how well the team is able to listen to their commander and be able to shift gears, if you will, on a map as Abbey. It's not easy. I mean, when you commit down a road, you are staying committed down that road for 2 minutes of game time.
Mhm.
There's no going back unless you waste 4 minutes of game time altogether. So they were able to salvage that in a very impressive fashion because of the nature of the map.
Yeah, especially with that opening move. I mean, that was bold. So bold to try and open down the middle. And then they had to go to the east side. I mean, I thought that was the end right there. When you open down the middle, you're just covered. Your opponent has every single vantage on you. I didn't see that as a situation that they could come back from. I didn't think they would be able to salvage it. I thought that would put them off too much, especially with 1390s pinned. But Victoria's Secret showing that they have that potential.
Question I have to ask is, are the autoloaders, all autoloaders, starting to be a detriment later in the game for C'est La Vie compared to Victoria's Secret's lineup?
You may have a point with that question.
Maybe.
1390s are not performing so well in this matchup.
We're going to have to see if they're going to continue with that same theme through the rest of the battles that we have for the rest of the match. Battle number 4 is about to begin on steps. Rookhill, what do we have for tanks?
For tanks, we have a Pershing, 2 T69s, and 2 1390s from Victoria's Secret. C'est La Vie will be bringing a Pershing, 4 1390s, and an MS-1. Doppler loves that MS-1.
He does.
I do not get that.
Well, it's the engine sound.
It does make a cool sound.
It makes a cool sound.
Go find it.
There he is.
Get real close. Ain't it nice? Just like
Look at the exhaust on the tank, too.
Yeah.
What an amazing design for a tiny little tank. Well, there's his avenue that he's taken to go scout up in the mountains. And Callus
Opening
spotted
scout
for
run.
a bit. Opening scout run indeed in the East Valley, and he's going to fall back.
Don't think he saw quite enough to warrant anything other than that little scout run. Looks like he's moving back towards the west to join everyone else. I guess that indicates to me C'est La Vie wants to go for some kind of west side play. And we're going to be giving Victoria's Secret the east side, which I'm not sure I agree with this kind of a lineup. 2 T69s and a Pershing. You're hoping to somehow be able to make an attack work against an opponent entrenched in the east. And they have.
The long range. They have the long range, and C'est La Vie has the traverse, but look at steps. It's so much open ground, except for 2 areas. That Eastern Valley, which is covered by Victoria's Secret, or the No Man's Road. But you still got to pop up sometime from that road.
Yeah, eventually. And it looks like someone has popped up. Flaming Panda? No, Callus.
Callus spotted again. Falls down to the No Man's Road. They know he's there. Still know he's there.
He knows that they know he's there.
Is that coming from Floppy Giraffe? Or is that long range? No, Floppy
That's-
Giraffe is able to scout Lord Rec Naps.
Now he's got to
Another
book
one.
it.
He's going to fall back.
Run, Floppy.
Callus could have the shot. Through the tree. Misses. Floppy Giraffe may live. No.
You jinxed him.
I jinxed him. Sock Cenobite got it. But those are a number of shots that C'est La Vie will not have in their drums here unless they reload. Sog is, well, he has to reload. Yeah, oh, he actually doesn't have to. He's in a 1390. He's deciding to reload. Callus reloading as well. Scouting down to the south, down the No Man's Road as they're going to continue to place themselves in the east. While Victoria's Secret has the spread happening, or the west rather. Victoria's Secret has a spread in the east. And they're going to move some of their lighter tanks down to the south to scout, possibly C'est La Vie in a defensive position and see how open the flag cap is.
And they'll end up finding that Doppler's there,
There he
watching it. A little T1, and some dude's going to be moving down. They might sack a T1 to try and get some kind of position, but C'est La Vie is so much faster and so much more flexible, where Victoria's Secret has good flexibility, great hold-downs, but they don't have that same level of speed. I think Victoria's Secret's going to have to play for the drop. C'est La Vie is going to be trying all the game, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, to try and find that weak spot and get a kill or get some damage. They're going to be taking it down to the last minute to try and finish this.
Sock Cenobite still staying back next to the rocks. Tied up here. No draw advantage. So none of these teams want that draw to happen until, well, it could turn into a best of one battle number 5.
Very well could.
But you think of the sweeps that have happened from Fnatic on this map. Even the Cazadores first using the no man's road in a previous season that surprised a lot of us. But speaking of surprises, Empro's surprised to get hit for 486 damage from long-range shots of the AMX 1390s. Callus pokes up a bit to see if any tanks are lingering about, not falling back, and he gets hit from Rummy. Just a little bit of trading blows here from both teams, but no fall-on commitment yet. That Empro, though, taking the most hits. That's another disadvantage for Victoria's Secret.
It won't set them back too far, I think, though,
No.
because of the fact that they still have plenty of hit points. Those 1390s only start out with 1,100 next to the full 1,350 of a T69 and the 1,440 of a Pershing. That little bit here and there, just by taking more tier 8s that have more hit points, allows you to take a little damage, though. And the 1390s are just so soft as well. They get penned very easily.
Approaching the 5-minute mark. Thinking of potential flag caps that have happened on steps to force the enemy to come to you, even though you are so open to fire. It's a difficult choice to make. It's worked a couple of times, but you have to have some sort of advantage ahead of time, I feel, in order for that to work properly. Usually that advantage has to be damage. What other advantages are there pretty much except higher ground, better positioning, and which falls under position and damage?
Pressure, I guess you could say, in a
Yeah,
way.
that's true.
Yeah, I guess that falls under positioning, though, if you want to take it like that. Yeah, let's see. Pressure, tempo is something that you can kind of control.
Yeah.
That's a little bit harder to read unless you're really watching that exact battle. You can't just dictate to someone how to control tempo. You can give advice, but it depends so much on the way your opponent reacts, because that's head games.
When you think about the damage that can be done by a 1390, and all these tankers, all these professionals, they're going to be using gold rounds.
Why not?
Yeah, I mean, you want to use the best that you can. Callus is able to poke a little bit back and forth here. 2 tanks are spotted currently. Serenity Disruption, he takes a hit. 238. Those 2 tanks spotted him as a indicator that Callus could be in a little bit of trouble. But no full-on commitment yet for Victoria's Secret. And I was going to say about the penetration of the APCR round for the 1390. 248 millimeter.
It's actually not that exceptional
Yeah.
for tier 8. It's a little bit odd because the 1390's penetration, you still bounce on tanks like an IS-3, but fight has begun. Bao Bao just showed up out of nowhere, and he's wrecking Disruption. Disruption had to kill Dopper, stop the cap before he backs off, and there is the cap trade. Also in the south, cap has begun. Now he begins putting his attention towards Bao Bao, but he is so very low. Lord Bracknips even comes in, wastes a shell on that Pershing, but they have the first tier 8 kill.
You gotta be careful though, because Bao Bao now is reloading. He's completely out of the firefight, while Lord Reknaps has 3. And based on his shooting record so far, he's not the most accurate shot. Lord Reknaps lines up a hit against Tyler Durden, but how many does he have left? Only 2, and now is 3 against 1. But here comes reinforcements. Callus and Big Cheese pushing up, trying to keep that flag cap. No, they're actually going to move into a brawl mode, and Sog takes down some dude. Rummy is going to get hit by Big Cheese for, big bounce actually off Rummy, and Callus gets hit to the side. Focusing on Callus with the most amount of shots. He falls. Big Cheese could be next. And this is a revenge of Victoria's Secret against C'est La Vie.
And that's just the 1390s. Not enough hit points and missing too many shots. Also, T69s put out damage so quickly. Focus fire from Serenity and Empro was excellent. And because of that, they're able to take a disadvantage, a whole tier 8 being dead, and turn that into perhaps victory in just a moment.
Serenity trying to stay alive here, and now he's fully loaded. Fires once against Bao Bao. It's a miss. Bao Bao gets hit on the side, and Serenity is able to clean it up. Sog, Cenobite, and Lord Reknaps, last 2 alive. Reknaps takes down Empro in the T69, and he tries to line up a shot against Rummy. It's a miss. Serenity is in trouble from Sog. 1 minute and 29 seconds. They're staying with the firefight. Rummy and Tyler, however, are moving to the south, waiting for the reload. Rummy is reloaded. Tyler not. And now he is.
But they escaped. They're behind cover. in full flight. This went one way, then back the other as soon as those 1390s were reloaded. Tyler Durden has a reasonable amount of health. He can take this back. I'm worried about Rummy.
I'm very worried about Rummy, especially how close Lord Reknaps is getting, and Sog Cenobite's reloading behind him. Go for the flag cap and make them come to you is one
Lord
decision
Reknaps,
they
that's a
can make.
mistake. He's caught out in the open now.
Oh, and a bounce! Tyler Durden tries to line up. Remy's trying to get some distance between him and the 1390s. And Tyler is going to fully go for it. He does. Takes a hit, though.
Don't know if it's worth it. 125 hit points on Rummy. That's one shell. 227. That is a low roll. That's just, if you get a too low of a roll, I mean, plus or minus 25% damage on a 240 damage shell, there's the possibility that Tyler Durden doesn't die from taking one shell. Possibility. Sog is at full
Oh,
health.
Sog, if he gets this. Oh, through the rock. Waiting. It's right behind. He can't get it yet. 12 seconds.
9.
Sog Cenobite going to pop up. Trying to get the shot against Rummy. On the run. Can he get it? No. And it goes into a draw scenario for these two teams in battle number 4, meaning that we're going to go to battle number 5 in technically a best of 1. However, if that goes to a draw, we have to go to a hard stop tiebreaker, which we'll have to confirm with the admin which map's going to be on.
It's going to be on Sand River.
It's going to be on Sand
Yep.
River, the same map that was used in the Global Grand Finals.
Exactly. Halfway through the season, decided it was a good idea to switch it up. See about that map. It's also just about as good as Corellia. Each map has their pro and con and their own little quirks that you need to understand if you're going to try and compete on the map. But we'll have to see how it works. Again, another map which I believe defensively you have a little bit of an advantage, but there are still options for the attacker. Remember Simp in the Global Grand Finals.
against Lemming Train, the
Yes.
team, the home team from Poland.
Mhm.
They were able to win that series against Lemming Train because of Sand River, and they faced Lemming Train again in the bracket, and they fell to them. And it's a tough fight for Simp because the entire sold-out crowd is cheering for Lemming Train. But many people were very impressed with the American team Simp and how they were able to perform against Poland.
I was impressed with the whole match in general. It gave me shivers.
Oh, it was awesome.
It was one of the most beautiful matches I've ever seen in World of Tanks. Actually, that's what happened at the Global Grand Finals, and that's what it seems to happen in every finals. You get these matches that you just don't get at any other time.
That's what makes them finals, my friend. That's what
Yeah.
makes them finals. Taking a look at Lord Reknaps here, 5 for 12. Now, one of the shots did not penetrate, so he hit 6 out of 12, but 5 penetrations out of 12. Again, this amount of damage could change the entire battle. It could have been. It is the difference between a win or a defeat.
But to his credit, there were a lot of shells, I think, that were going out that were...
I was going to look at more of his
course,
team,
yeah,
but because
but-
we're getting ready for the next battle,
Yeah.
so I'm not trying to harp too much on Lord Reknaps, but I wanted to give the audience the hard stat information of when you miss a shot and you see how many tanks are still left alive with that much health, it does make a huge difference. That being said, battle number 5 on Himmelsdorf between Victoria's Secret and Selah B. Rootkill, what do we have for tanks?
We have 2 AMX 5100s, 3 IS3s for Victoria's Secret. C'est la vie will be bringing 3 5100s and 2 IS3s. Wouldn't you know?
Wouldn't you know? That is the difference of the burst damage 6-shot autoloader versus the best tank in space, the IS-3.
Just a beautiful tank. Just look at it. Just beautiful. You know, I got to learn something about sloped armor just the other day. I was reading an article on why sloped armor actually has some cons to it, and why the Germans actually chose not to put sloped armor on the Tiger. Along with believing that their steel was superior, they discovered that when you put sloped armor on a tank, instead of it being just as long and just as wide as normal, if you slope the sides, the space that you can put a turret ring is actually smaller, which means you can't put as big a gun on the tank. So if, for example, the IS-3 were actually perfectly square with no slope, you could actually put a bigger turret and an even bigger gun on the tank. So, for example, with the T-34, the Russian T-34, the reason you couldn't put anything bigger like a 100mm cannon on it and actually be effective, and the reason they had to stick with an 85mm cannon was because the sloped armor prevented them from putting a bigger gun.
Big Cheese takes down Floppy Giraffe, but that's very intriguing because you think of angles and the diagonal range on a graph and how long that actually is.
Yeah, and how much sloped armor affects the thickness.
Yeah.
And the other factors. There's numerous benefits to having sloped armor on a tank. It's absolutely necessary in today. I mean, every single tank has well-sloped armor because they understand the pros of it. And the fact that, well, advances in technology and the fact that there's sufficient guns now, you don't need anything bigger. But there are limitations that you place on a tank, especially in tanks of late World War II, like the IS-3 and the 5100, that when you put sloped armor, you have to put a smaller gun.
Well, the West was quite intimidated by the IS-3, which is why they had to go back to the drawing board with their tanks when those were rolling out after World War II. And very intriguing to see how technology and the actual physics and mathematics applied to hard stats, to the hard steel of these tanks, and how it makes a difference in the design. And to us, it to the untrained human eye, it looks aesthetically pleasing. You think, oh, it's a cool looking tank, and I like how the turrets is created that way, but it has so many battle tactic benefits. It's why it's designed that way.
It's actually probably one of the most complicated tanks to play in World of Tanks simply because of the way the armor is. You have to think about the fact that you do have this beautiful Shuka that can bounce so many shells, but you have to know that in the highest level of play, when there are gold rounds involved, that your Shuka will simply not bounce anything.
Yep.
Unless someone places their shot poorly.
Well,
oh, wow, interesting.
C'est La Vie is straight up in Victoria's Secret's base. If Victoria's Secret is almost in their base, this could be a base trade here.
It looks like it. 4 tanks, 4 tier 8s, going to the South Cap. Disruption is returning alone, and it looks like he's been found out by Lord Ragnips and Callus. This is over. C'est La Vie. I don't see how could Victoria's Secret win in this situation. They don't have any way of stopping the cap. There's an advantage of a few seconds. There's maybe the potential of a draw. Maybe, but I don't think so. Disruption's going to go down. He's not going to be able to stop the cap. But Serenity could save it. No. 7 seconds left. He won't be able to.
Can't get there in time. Disruption's going to fall as Lord Ragnips is going to push forward here. Actually, he's going to focus on the other tank. And C'est La Vie is it. Well, hold on. There is a 7-second window, so it could actually be
base captured. Is it?
Well, it's at 100%, but it does not say base captured.
Look,
victory for me. What does it say for you?
Game
Looks like victory for me. It's not a draw.
Yeah.
Okay. We'll double check with our admin, but there's a 7-second window that it can happen. I think they're about half a second away from tying it up.
Almost.
But admin has called it. It is a win for C'est La Vie, which means, ladies and gentlemen, C'est La Vie has won their first game in the division. It's finally happened.
Congratulations to them. They're due for it. They've worked so hard. They've gotten here to the Gold League. There's so much skill here, and they've finally gotten it together enough to be able to win. And it looked great. Every single map. There wasn't a huge thing wrong with anything C'est La Vie did. It was risky, though. I have to say it was risky on Himmelsdorf.
But, when you get to that point of desperation, man, you think, just go for it. And they went for it. And I'm really intrigued with the 2 battles that happened today on Abbey and then also on Himmelsdorf. If this was completely circumstantial that C'est La Vie chose these things, or they studied so well Victoria's Secret that they knew the plans that were going to happen.
That is an interesting thought. The Abbey one, that seemed like a big metagame thing. Because otherwise, I don't think that Abbey strat works. I think it's a bad idea in general to just do those positions unless you know something's up. So I agree with you there. I think that was certainly metagaming. Himmelsdorf? I mean, it was so brief. The battle was so brief. I didn't even get a read on any of that. It was just straight up go.
Yeah. It turned into, one was Tank Valley, one was the West, They kept going. They weren't spotting anything. They kept going. They weren't spotting anything. They kept going. And then once they spotted each other, it was, well, we're this close to each other's base. Let's go. It's kind of this mutual, not agreement, but mutual understanding of you're there, we're here, or that's how we're going to fight.
Yeah.
It turned into that. So quite an intriguing evolution that happened between these two teams, and quite a different matchup than I thought what was going to happen, at least for our first match tonight. So a good way to start the evening, a good way to start Week 5 for the Alpha Division. But we have 3 more matches for tonight. Next up, it's going to be Simple Tankers versus Top Tier. So don't go anywhere. That match after this.